The views and opinions expressed by participants in the following public affairs program do not necessarily reflect the position or beliefs of WDEF or its staff.
Since 1954, this is Point of View, the world record-holding public affairs program produced locally at WDEF News 12. Hello, I'm Maurice Lewis, and thank you very much for joining us for this edition of Point of View. Well, the election's over. Now what? The politicians have promised, and if you've been following the news, you'll see the controversy that surrounds our current president of promises made, debts unpaid. Well, the same thing happens here locally. Politicians make promises. They are good intentioned, but can they always deliver what they promise? We'll start our conversation out first of all by reintroducing my co-host today. Mark West is with us here. And also, Mark, we've decided that the first victim that we will have today is a new person on the Chattanooga City Council. And I don't mean victim, but you get the humor in this.
I understand completely.
Darren Ledford from District 4, thank you very much for joining us today.
Pleasure, Maurice.
So you made a lot of promises in your campaign to convince people, vote for me, here's what I will do. What's going to be the most difficult thing for you to keep your promises?
Most difficult thing in keeping those promises is understanding how the system works, how government works, how working with the administration and understanding those structures and those policies. I think that the things that I promised are doable. I think that by working together with the mayor and his staff that we can get it done. I think with a strong council that we currently have, which is I'm very excited about. I think it's one of the most diverse, if not the most diverse council this city has ever seen. And I'm excited about the energy and the ideas that are being brought forward. And I believe that we can achieve a lot of what we promised we could do.
You know, you said working with the administration, that means the mayor.
Right.
So what is the role of the mayor versus the role of the council? I'm kind of curious, are they the same, different, and where do they cross?
Well, you have to understand, when you're spending the money, the mayor sets forth the budget, and we're getting ready to go into a budget process, which means the council's reviewing the budget. There are a lot of line items that a lot of us on council are concerned with, things that we need and want more money put towards that our constituents have told us about. And this is important because this is a conversation that's been had over the past 4 years that I feel this council now has an opportunity to make good on.
Well, you say this council has an opportunity to make good. You as a single council person can't do really anything.
No, you're right. I have to be able to count to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, Maurice, because it takes 5 votes to get anything done. And what I think what we have seen in the past, in this simple math, is that there was a pretty strong 5 that could be counted on. I think we have, like I stated before, a much more balanced, a much more well-represented council than we've seen in a long, long time.
Mark, I just want to quickly follow up. The indications that there are blocks, there are parties and there are blocks. And what the public has been saying, we want individuals. But in order to get anything done, you have to align yourself with other people. How comfortable with you are you with that process?
Here's what's interesting, Maurice, and I love this about being on this council specifically right now. This is a council that shares a lot of common values, a lot of common goals. We all want a better, safer Chattanooga. We all want better roads. We all want safer streets. These are very important. We all want economic development opportunities that are equal in all districts. And I think as a council, we have already started to build those bridges, those friendships, and we've started to mesh. And I think that is extremely important. If you've watched any of our council meetings so far, you are seeing continuity that I think has never been seen.
Now, you mentioned a safer city, and I've talked to a lot of people across the city, and that's one of their biggest concerns. And so safety means generally is referring to our gangs and violence in the inner city that's actually creeping out elsewhere. How are you going to address that?
Well, we're going to address it together, and I tell you, there is nothing more important than what is going on right now as I'm seeing in the police department, and that is a strong effort to reach out and do what we call community policing. Now, community policing has many different parts of it. The biggest part I want to stress and where my heart lies is in the word community. We are not going to solve, or we are not going to to reduce our violence in our neighborhoods if we all don't stick together, come together as one and say we've had enough. The police can't do this on themselves. Not that they're not capable. They need our help. They need our information. We're not providing them with information. I listened to a report yesterday in council from the victims division. That needs more attention. We need to let people know that we are supportive of them, that when they come forth with information about crimes, about witnessing things, they are protective, that this community has their back.
Well, one of the things about being an elected official is accountability. New City Councilor Anthony Byrd was supposed to be here with you today. He didn't show, but you did. And part of the premise of what made this thing uncomfortable for you is a sunshine law. Tell us about that.
Well, I'm going to, one of the things that I promised, one of the things that Anthony and others promised was that when we were elected, you would see complete honesty from us. I will say that it was learned that we would be on the show together, and we were advised that we possibly could get into a violation of sunshine laws. And we take that, especially as newly elected, very serious.
And the sunshine law means you don't meet in private and discuss.
Well, that's true. Well, or meet as a group, more than one of us, two of us together. If we were to touch on a subject or something that might come before council, like what I talked about, the community policing, there might be an item coming forth in council, then someone could misinterpret that. And so I want to say that in all fairness to Mr. Byrd, that probably was, as new council members, I think that was a wise decision that we avoid any controversy, because we want to be completely open, completely transparent, and I'm very serious about that, and I think the people deserve that.
That's a good point. I've had encounter with this sunshine law in the past, but to me it seems almost as if it attacks transparency. Because here was an opportunity for both of you to be on a program, to be transparent, and yet one of them couldn't be here because that was held over their head.
That could be advice, and again, as new council people, we are learning every day the do's and don'ts of this job, and I think it could be viewed in many different ways. It could be viewed as that was a protection for us so that we don't cross the line, but that advice. But I think that we. That's where it is anyways.
What's your job as a city councilor?
A city councilman, that's a good question, Maurice, because I think that is almost different to every council person. We are to sit every Tuesday and look over and plan, decide on planning and zoning issues. Approve the mayor's budget is obviously one of the biggest job descriptions in the city charter. But I think as a city councilman, we almost define our own roles. Mine is to think outside the box. In private business for almost 20 years, I've made a living at thinking outside the box.
We only have a final minute, Mark, in case you want to.
Define for me crony capitalism. That's really something I wanted to touch on.
Crony capitalism, to me, in my definition, is almost the same as, I guess, the old mobster days, if you will. And that is things getting done because of who you know and what you know. And I don't subscribe to that. I came up from my beginnings as an entrepreneur, starting with a few $1,000s that I borrowed from my grandparents. And
you sound like Trump.
No.
He had a few more zeros.
Add a lot more zeros to that. But I think that when you look at that definition, it's something I'm not interested in. I don't like to see. I almost feel like it's a version of bullying to some point, and I'm not into bullying in any fashion.
Well, Darren Ledford, we want to thank you. You're a new city councilor from District 4. Mark West will be talking about a lot of politics in the very near future. Glad to have you back with us again. Listen, stay tuned for Point of View. When we come back, unleashing the lion within. That and more when Point of View continues.
It takes less than 1 minute to find out if you may have prediabetes, and you can do it here. So what are you waiting for? Just go to the site.
Hello, once again, I'm Maurice Lewis, the host of Point of View. Thank you very much for staying with us. We have a very familiar face with us, Ruth Carter Hickman, who is a photographer and an event planner and also a contributor to this show on a regular basis. Ruth, welcome back again.
Thank you, Maurice.
You have been many places, but what we're going to talk about today is within, and in specific, unleashing the lion from within. Glenn Hodges, you are a coach you help people to do that. Explain, please, what is unleashing the lion from within?
Well, Maurice, I think most people, unless I'm just really different, has something that they always wanted to do, but they just didn't do it because of the fear of what others would think. Maybe it's a self-image problem.
I agree. I think that too many times people are afraid to really step into who they are and own who they are and be accepting of others and not feel ashamed of feeling a certain way or thinking a certain way or believing a certain way.
How does that play into it?
Well, beliefs and understanding the power of the mind. Ruth's very fortunate in that her father exposed her to a lot at a very early age, and traveling to Japan, I believe.
Yes, I did.
And but everyone doesn't have that opportunity. There's so many people that don't understand all the possibilities, endless possibilities there for us. I think it's been said that, you know, there's nothing comparable to what's within. With all that's behind us and all before us, the power within is so great, and that's where the lion comes in.
I think a lot of people that are viewing this morning say, what do you mean, the lion within? Explain that.
The lion. Well, to me, it's like, have you ever done something that, I'm sure only as a child you did something that maybe you shouldn't do?
Moi?
And your conscience may have bothered you?
Moi?
He's still doing stuff he's not supposed
Well,
to.
Yeah.
so it's that little voice within, not that you've done something wrong, but saying, you should do this. You should do this.
I think too many times we tell ourselves no, right? Like no to the donut that you want to eat, or no to the trip that you've been wanting to take, or no to the car you really want. Why not just say yes?
Well, that little man in our head starts talking to us.
Or woman.
Or that woman starts talking to us and saying, you can't do that. Or what will others think? Or you can't afford to do that. What if you fail? You know, what great accomplishment has there been by mankind that there wasn't failure that preceded it?
You know, I'm intrigued by the expression of, if you're looking at the road ahead, the best way to start your journey is to get out of your own way.
Wow, that's powerful.
So how do you do that from within? By telling yourself you have the capabilities?
Well, once you understand the power of the mind, but oftentimes that's where a good professional coach comes in. I call myself a results coach, one that helps you to discover those things that you really want to do, you know, what you're passionate about, what makes your heart sing, but yet you don't do it. Why don't you?
Well, what's the difference between a results coach and a life coach?
Well, a life coach is dealing more with life as a whole. It might get into more of relationships and things of that nature. And any kind of coaching, it's going to border on that, but I'll work more with the professional and helping them to accomplish goals and growing their business, bringing in more sales, grooming salespeople or other executives in the company.
As a photographer, I like to work with clients and get to know them personally and help them bring their personality out when we're shooting. I actually just worked with a client in Florida, and she was dealing with some self-image issues, and you and I discussed that before about not feeling good on the inside and how to bring that out. I think that translates through, you know, affirmations, working on believing that you are really beautiful so that can come out in the photo.
Yeah, most definitely, and I think, again, what most people do is they operate in what's known as the comfort zone.
Yes.
And it's just like, have you seen people that just avoid adversity? If there's a little squabble in the office, there's some people that just turn and walk away or just won't be a part of it. They just can't handle adversity, even when maybe they should step up and say, maybe you should consider doing this a different way. They just are afraid to approach it. And I think that's as a result of self-image.
Well, okay, so these are barriers, self-imposed barriers. But in order to unleash the lion within, you need to know your surroundings. Because if you're the lion and you're in the middle of Fifth Avenue in New York and you bring that out, that may not play very well. So what about the balance?
the balance of the surroundings that you're in, well, again, it goes back to your heart. What are you passionate about? So it doesn't matter what the circumstances are, where you are, if the passion is there and you have developed some skills in order to step outside of that comfort zone, which means creating new habits, really.
Ruth, you just finished a forum of sorts for this, where the conversation was about being the best that you can be. Why did you go into it, and what did you get out of it?
Well, I went into this retreat about, women being business owners and entrepreneurs, and really owning that and not apologizing for being intelligent or creative or having ideas that don't just keep you in the kitchen. I think we've got to get rid of these old ideas of what a woman is and should be doing. Like, maybe, I get it all the time. How come you don't have kids? Well, maybe I don't want kids. I'm married, but maybe not necessarily. I love traveling. I love meeting new people. I don't want to be bogged down with every day.
It's all about timing.
Yes,
timing.
I believe that. I think that you should follow your own path and not necessarily wonder about what are other people thinking and how they're going to judge you. I think there's a lot of judgment here in Chattanooga.
It's interesting. I was talking to Maurice about that. Maybe another time we can chat about a situation that I
Well,
shared
just
with him.
briefly tell us. We have less than a minute, but go ahead.
Well, it just involves what I think is almost an epidemic in the school systems and in bullying, and then in America, judging. And it involves a gentleman that I met in Chicago in 2013. Most people, for some reason, avoided him, but I chose to meet him, discovered this guy was just not the average guy at the event. He was actually had his Juris Doctorate degree, was a presidential appointee, and is now the highest ranking government employee with a disability.
Everyone has a story. Maurice.
Absolutely, and your story continues as you continue to help businesses. We want to thank you very much for being a guest with us here today.
Yeah.
Now,
It's
Ruth,
my pleasure, Ruth.
we want you to stick around.
Okay.
You are always a pleasure to work with. Stay with us for this next segment of Point of View.
Alvin and the Chipmunks want to remind you bacteria can hide in food and make you ill.
Wow!
But you can keep bacteria from ruining your day with 4 simple steps. Clean, separate, cook, and chill. The road trip to food safety starts at foodsafety.gov.
Thank you for rejoining us here on Point of View. Ruth Carter Hickman, you're still with us. We have something exciting to talk about. A midwife, midwifery. Since the beginning of time, when women had babies, there was another woman present, and there was a job for her to do. It called on many different skills, and we have a doula with us today. You want to take us on this journey to explain, number one, what is a doula and how did she get here?
Yes, KZ is a wonderful woman who is so talented with her profession and traveling and food. And Kezia Henry, take us away.
So, midwifery, how did you get the title doula? How, are they one and the same?
Well, they work together. So I like to explain it like a doula is the nurse and a midwife is the doctor in sense. And the midwife is the one who's actually catching the baby, and the doula is the one who's supporting, empowering, and working with the mother directly and being her advocate.
Why do we even need a doula?
Yeah, you know, in this day and age, we're thinking people go to the hospital and have a baby. Well, what do they need you for?
Well, doulas have been proven to have a reduction rate just by having a doula around. A reduction rate in cesareans have gone down about 50% when you work with a doula. Having that support and someone to work with you one-on-one, educating you through the process. And really, a doula is a supporter, a birth worker, someone who guides you through creating the best birth experience that you want.
So the guys out there, I guess you guys want to know, well, what do I need to know?
Right.
Why her?
Well, as a father in this situation, he's supported knowing that he has someone who is knowledgeable about birthing, educated in the field, able to connect with his significant other on the birthing process. And then we're also there to support him. He knows that when he steps outside of the room, whether it be in a hospital birth or a home birth, he knows that his wife is or significant other is taken care of as well.
How do you incorporate the food?
So the food is a part of just the journey of being pregnant. You have to eat well and support your body and the baby. And what I do is I help to create meal plans. I also help to cook with the mother and teaching her all of the intricate things that she can use food to heal her. And food is medicine, really.
Wow. If I ever get pregnant, I'm hiring this lady. I need a doula.
Yes.
Do you wash clothes too?
Oh, no.
Well, go ahead.
But really, what it is really just that support. A doula is a good friend. You know, I personally go in and work with mothers one-on-one. I stay with them from about 6 months all the way till after birth.
Wow.
And 6 months of pregnancy to after birth, and I'm just there helping her to prepare for that birth spiritually, emotionally, physically. We're going to work out, we're going to eat well. I really just create that sacred space for her.
And I see that you also have a baby moon service. What
Yes.
is a baby moon?
So a baby moon, so everyone's heard of a honeymoon,
Yeah,
right?
honeymoon is usually just two people.
Just two people. Well, this time you're taking
Unless
two
you
and a
have one
half.
of those mother-in-laws that just will not let go. You know how that can be, right?
Yes. Well, this is a little different. Mom can come too, I guess. But this is for the mother and the father to connect, so it'll be 2.5 people. And what I do is I create a package for them to go to a nice destination. I build an itinerary and allow them to have that one last little hoorah before baby comes, so usually in the second trimester.
Well, that was going to be my question. How far along in the birth?
Right. So first trimester, maybe some morning sickness. So after that's done, the second trimester is when the woman is glowing and beautiful and she can do a lot more. Third trimester, we decide that that's a little too late for travel, so we like to stay within the second trimester.
How is the doula relationship developing in different communities in an ethnic breakdown?
Well, a lot of modern people like to hire doulas just for some companionship, but I started off as a community doula, working with inner city people who don't have the opportunity to hire a doula. So I volunteered my time to be able to share with them the information that they may not necessarily know, and the access to tools and things like that.
To speak on culture, though,
Yes.
you're from Trinidad, so
Yes.
in the Caribbean and traveling, and how does that relate to, I think that was Maurice's point,
Oh, I
to the
see.
whole cultures, I guess.
Well, being from Trinidad, where I'm from, there's a whole slew of people in the birthing space. You're going to have your aunts, your uncles, well, not your uncles, but all the women, your aunts and your cousins, and they use that to create that space for women to empower them, but also around the world, in India, in Egypt, in Mexico. A lot of these different cultures actually use doulas. They don't call them doulas, but they use friends and cousins and aunts to help them in the process, because it's empowering.
Yeah, without the extended family, which was traditional where you had this.
Exactly.
But I want to sidetrack here for a moment. In your profession as a photographer, more and more parents or potential
Yes.
parents are asking to capture the birth process on film and on
Yes.
video. This is turning to be quite a trend. How does that interfere or work with your program?
Oh, it works well. We want to capture the moment always. In the moment, you're focused on delivering your baby, and you don't want your husband taking the pictures because you want him to hold your hand. And so with photographer, I've had photographers in the birthing session before, and it just adds to, just the presence of a photographer adds to the birthing experience.
Are a lot of women comfortable with that intimate moment being
Yes,
Yeah.
they want
and-
it. They want it.
Yes.
You know, because that area is like usually
Sacred.
Yeah, there ain't a lot of
Right.
cameras, you know. So
They actually want it. Everyone nowadays want to document. We want to document what our experience was, and we want to show that to our children and show it to our family. And it's very tasteful. A photographer can capture the moment and be tasteful and still protect the woman's sacredness.
Yes.
The educational value of this seems endless. We want the best for the mother and the child. How hard is it to convince people to change some of their habits?
Well, it can be difficult if you have bad habits prior to being pregnant. However, when I get in and I work with the mother, I allow her to help create the process. So when someone is involved in the change, it's much easier. But if I'm telling them what to do, then that's when it becomes a problem.
That's when you get resistance.
Exactly.
Well, Ms. Henry, we really want to thank you for being a part of Point of View.
Yes.
We ran out of time.
Oh, wow.
Oh, wow. We can talk all day.
Yeah.
It's such a fascinating subject. And what's old is new again.
Yes.
And that's what I really like about it. And having you here, it's just been a pleasure. Nikki, you'll be, Ruth, you will be back with us very soon.
Get my name right, Maurice.
I've got it right. I've got it right.
Thank you.
Listen, what would life be without all of the wonderful characters and the unique perspectives that we get from watching public television? Well, the dollars and politicians are on the move in Washington, D.C., and it could affect you right here in Chattanooga. We'll have that and more on the next Point of View.
Closed captioning provided by the following.
Funding for this program is brought to you by Barnett & Company, specializing in tax-efficient strategies for the preservation and distribution of family wealth, offering continuous investment management with a focus on long-term strategies. Areas of service include investment, estate, education, and retirement planning. Barnett & Company, the power of compound returns over time. More information can be found on the web at barnettandcompany.com.